Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Monday, baby. It's Monday. It's Easter Monday. Bank holiday Monday. Like the bloody banks need holiday. How are you doing anyway? You're looking absolutely amazing. And I'm going to get straight into the meat and potatoes, as this is kind of... today's video, we're going live tonight. I moved to live yesterday because it was Easter Sunday, and I thought, you know what, there weren't a lot of people about. Let's give people a bit of time. And we'll meet up tonight. We'll spend some time together tonight. But 2 videos coming today before we get even there. And we're going to be talking in this video about the cell phone information. The cell phone information around Ray. And why we're going back to this is there is still a lot of people who are seemingly struggling to get their head around this situation. I'm seeing my name crop up multiple times about my support of Ray and how that is somehow going bad and I shouldn't be, and that Judge Hippler handed Ray's ass to him, smacked him down, dropped the mic, so on and so forth. And I'm going to show you in this video, with the help of my friend Eddie, that that's not the case at all. And in fact, what people are doing, they're either stupid, people are either stupid, or they've got such a firm belief in Brian KOHBERGER's guilt that they're willing to overlook things, or they don't understand what they're watching, listening to. There's not really any grey area with it. There's some real specific things that are happening here that people are seemingly willing to overlook. And of course, we go back to that old saying about skin in the game. And when people don't have skin in the game, it's very easy for them to overlook or purposefully ignore certain things, because it has no effect on them whatsoever. Whether these people are tragedy tourists and they just like to be involved in this shit because it's entertainment to them. But there is some people out there who absolutely invest themselves in these cases because it interests them into how things run as a whole. Are we being treated fairly? Is the system working the way that we want it to work and how it should work? Because in the eventuality that one of us finds ourselves on the other side of it and we have to depend on its fair and proper function, it's got to be right. You know, that saying, does the ends justify the means as well? Is some of this involved in cases like this, where even if Brian KOHBERGER was indeed guilty of this crime, is the methodology used in order to ascertain his guilt, if they go beyond the realms of what they should be doing, is that okay because it's the outcome that should have happened? And look, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Brian KOHBERGER is guilty of this crime, because whatever I see, there are issues with it, and we're going to go through some of them issues right now. So let's go into it as Harsh continues to blather on. So look, April the 9th hearing. So Thompson, there is nothing in the cell phone data that shows where the defendant was during the homicides. Now, he's going to be proven to be talking shit. Mr. Ray can't account for the time of the homicides because the phone was turned off. Yet stating the defendant's cell phone data exists but doesn't know where he was. So the two things can't exist, can they? There can't be an absence of data if the cell phone weren't there. Those things can't exist. If the person isn't there, then the data's not there. Does that make sense? These two things come hand in hand. Either the data is there, or he wasn't there, therefore no data existed for that individual. Do you see what I mean? Let's carry on. Hippler to Thompson. What about their cell phone expert, as I understand, will testify as to where he was or wasn't? Thompson. I don't believe that's what his expert can say before the defendant's phone was switched off. Hippler. You don't disagree about the ability and the right to put on that evidence. Thompson. But that doesn't apply to when the homicides occurred. Oh, but it will, Thompson. Taylor. When Mr. KOHBERGER came to the attention of the state, they began doing search warrants. 2. For his records on December 23rd, their 48-hour period asked for timing advance records. Their second warrant asked for all his records. I haven't seen any of these records. Hippler to Taylor said he read Ray's affidavit. What's the other way? I haven't heard that. Hippler is also lying, knowing it was pointed out the other way is going through the FBI, who was balanced for the records, which is what people are struggling to say, to grasp here. What we've got to understand is that Cy Ray is in a very, very privileged position. He's been dealing with this data for decades, and he very clearly alludes to the fact that there are ways that this data can be obtained by certain law enforcement agencies, one of them being the FBI. And in the eventuality that they are looking specifically for advanced timing records, there are specific people that there will be involvement of that individual with. Does that make sense? Which Cy Ray absolutely states within his affidavit that these individuals who work around these time and advance records have been involved in this case. And he's also very, very clear in that there are methods that can be used and people who have access to them. He's saying it without flat out saying it and walking your hand. Maybe he didn't want to be too condescending because he thought people would be able to ascertain what he was trying to say here. Obviously, it went over some people's heads because they're fucking thick, or they're purposefully trying to ignore certain things that are said because it best suits their narrative. But Cy Ray was very clear in his affidavit that you can obtain these records. You don't go down the normal channels. So here we go. So it says, Latah County hearing. Payne stated he requested and obtained KOHBERGER's records. That included timing advance records and gave them to balance. From the 3,800 plus phones, timing records were obtained for 2 victims and 1 person of interest. Ray's affidavit states, email dated 15th of the 11th, 2022, sent to Jennings by Mary, informing her contact was made with balance, stating timing advance records can be provided. Ray. Detective and prosecutors served 2 warrants on AT&T for defendant's account, including requests for timing advance records. The state and prosecution allege their requests produced nothing. Let's understand why the state and prosecution hasn't produced results from the 2 search warrants for Taylor, which you have to go back to the PCA and specifically look at pages 11 and 12. Do some homework. The link to the documents is in the description of this video. You can find the PCA. You can go to pages 11 and 12. And it states, as part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices, 3,800 plus, that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence between 3 and 5 a.m. After determining KOHBERGER was associated to both the 2015 white Elantra and the 8458 phone, investigators reviewed these search warrant returns. A query of the 8458 phone did not show the 8458 phone utilizing cellular resources in close proximity to the residence between 3 and 5 a.m. 3,800 plus phones were dragged between 3 and 5 a.m. for more information to determine whose phones were in close proximity to the King Road residence. KOHBERGER, his white 2015 Elantra, and 8458 phone were determined by time and location provided by investigation in the PCA. Who was at the house at 3:59 a.m.? The DoorDash driver. And that will be video 2 later today. You know, this is a crime about understanding who is controlling when the crime happened. We have a specific time frame for these murders that even that there is a degree of unclear conclusion to it. We have medical professionals who have stated that this happened earlier. We even have little odd statements made by families, such as Ethan Chapman's, that make reference to times outside of the time of this crime. And we have, by all accounts, a timeline that has been, how can I say, it's been governed by the surviving roommates in the house and their cellular activity and the interactions between these two. So a question has to be asked is whether the time frame could have been manipulated by people inside the house to make it look like this crime happened at a specific time. Now, can you say, hand on heart, could you put your children's life on it that that's not something that could happen? Did this crime happen when we believe it happened? Did it happen earlier? Did it happen later? If it happened at this specific time, then you have to look at who can be proven to be at this address. Because at the moment, we don't have any solid proof that Bryan Kohberger is at this address. And if you believe that there is solid proof that Bryan Kohberger was at this address at this time when this crime took place, then you are very much mistaken. But there was somebody else at this property, and there was the ability to manipulate certain pieces of that information to make you believe that that was indeed Bryan Kohberger. So stick around, subscribe to the channel, like this video if you haven't already, and join me later on in video 2 when we look at the DoorDash driver. It's interesting.